For starters, just want to say thank you to all the parents who are out here tonight. Can we give it up for the parents that showed up? Yeah, so welcome to Parent Night. This is just something we like to do every once in a while to get parents in the room, checking out what Floor One is all about. And it's a lot of things, but what it is something that you don't want in your life, in your mind, in your heart, and so we escape it so we can get some relief from it. But here's the problem with trying to find relief for what you're going through. Most of the time, the things that we fight for and chase after to give us relief actually cause us more stress. Because ignoring something does not make that something disappear. Ignoring it doesn't make it disappear. And so in the Old Testament, there's this book called Lamentations. Now the word is derived from the actual word lament. And lament is this old word that you don't really hear people talk about anymore, but in the Old Testament, it was a thing. People lamented. They lamented so much that somebody wrote a book about it called Lamentations. It's a book about lamenting. And the word lament means to express grief. So if you're looking for a positive thing to read, Lamentations is not it. It's not the positive thing to read. Listen, if you're going through something and your friends trying to cheer you up with Lamentations, they might be pulling a prank on you because Lamentations is about grief. But in it, there's some truth and there's some hope and there's some power. And so we believe that Lamentations was written by a prophet named Jeremiah. And in chapter 3, verse 19 through 23, I think this statement can sum up really all of this book, but there's some really important things in here. And maybe for you today, what Jeremiah is saying can be maybe what you're feeling. I remember one time I was preaching and I got done and someone walked up to me and said, I've been trying to figure out for 10 years how to say how I feel, and you said it. And that's the thing I love about worship songs, is sometimes I don't know how I feel about the things that are happening inside of me, and then I'll sing a song and then it's there. It's how I feel. And I think it's why music in general is so popular. And so that's why the scriptures are so important, is because you're going to go through things. And sometimes it's like, I don't know how to say how I feel. And somebody's gone through something similar and they can say it. And so here's what Jeremiah says in Lamentations. He says, the thought of my suffering and homelessness is bitter beyond words. I will never forget this awful time as I grieve over my loss. Yet I still dare to hope when I remember this. The faithful love of the Lord never ends. His mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each morning. Now, clearly, Jeremiah is going through something. He's got some problems, right? He's having a day. He is bitter beyond words. And the words that he does express is this. He's saying he is hurting, and it is so bad that he says he will never forget what he is feeling. Have you ever felt this kind of pain before? We say this all the time to you guys. It's a discredit to you as middle school and high school students when people who are older than you try to talk down about your emotions. And this is what people do. As adults, the things we go through can seem like they're bigger, but it doesn't mean that what you're going through is not as big. Like, you go through things, and it's the first time you've ever gone through it. Like, if you're dating somebody and you get dumped, that's the first time you've ever been dumped. That's the first time you've ever felt that. And you might share that with like an older brother or somebody, and they're like, well, I've been dumped several times. Like, what's the big deal? Yeah, you've been dumped several times. That says a lot about you. But then you should be like, it's the first time I've ever been dumped. Like, when you go through things, and it's the first time you go through it, it's very real. And we talked about this all the time. Your pain is real. And we never want to talk down about it. And so you've been through some things. Have you ever been through something like this where it just was like bitter? Like, it's just, you felt every part of it. Maybe it was getting dumped by that first person that you like really cared about, and you felt like you gave them your heart, and maybe you gave them some other things and they dumped you and it was like awful. But maybe, maybe it's the fact that you struggle with school and it seems to be always a fight in your house. And this one time you studied as hard as you could and you actually put effort into it, and in the end walked away with the same grade, and you got that feeling of what am I doing? Maybe it's family issues. Maybe things at your home with your parents aren't like they are with other people's parents. And it's hard to talk about it because all your friends seem to have it together when it comes to home life, but you don't, and it's painful. Maybe you've lost somebody. Maybe somebody died in your life and they're gone and they're not coming back. Or sometimes I think what's even worse is when people who are alive leave and they don't come back. Everybody in this room has been through something. I think everybody in this room has felt the kind of pain that Jeremiah is talking about, the kind of pain that stings and hurts, and you feel like you're never going to lose it. And I think here's what's so important. Jeremiah is honest about what he's going through. He is not downplaying, avoiding, numbing, or lying about his pain. He is dealing with it. For all the world to see, he is dealing with his pain. And we got to be really careful because we will sometimes do anything not to feel our feelings because it hurts. So we avoid them. But Jeremiah demonstrates what really we all have to demonstrate. We have to be willing to deal with our pain. And here's, if you don't get anything today, man, get this sentence right here. This is the most important part of really what I'm talking about, and that's this. You have to feel to move forward. You got to feel to be able to move forward. So in order to fully feel hope, you got to fully feel your emotions. And that is hard. Especially if the things that you're feeling is the first time you've ever felt them before. And you don't know what to do with these things. And again, it's weird sometimes to talk about that with other people. How do I express and understand what's happening inside of me? But to feel hope, you got to feel the emotions, all the emotions. And this allows Jeremiah to do the most important thing. Because what he does next in this statement is so important. It's the key, because like if we just end the message here, there's not a lot of hope. It's just a lot of frustration. It's just a lot of depression. It's just a lot of anger, right? If all we do is acknowledge that there's a brokenness, if all we do acknowledges that there's a problem, if all we do is say, hey, there's something going on inside of me and I don't know how to fix it, and that's where we end, man, goodness, then this is just depressing. But that's not what happens next. Jeremiah presses into what we should press into, and this is what I'm hoping for somebody today. Because I feel like despite the fact that it's summertime and the sun is out and it feels like we're moving forward, I think some of us feel stuck in some things that have happened over the year and a half. And so I'm hoping for somebody today, this is an encouragement. This is something to help you start to move forward. Because what Jeremiah does next is he remembers who God is. He doesn't just remember his pain and deal with it and press into it and talk about it. He also remembers, more importantly, who God is. Here's what Jeremiah says next. And I love this. He says, yet I still dare to hope. I love this. I'm going to go back to verse 19. I mean, Jeremiah's in a bad spot, man. He says, the thought of my suffering and homelessness is bitter. It's bitter to my mouth. I will never forget this awful time. And I'm grieving over my loss. He goes, I'm never going to forget this pain. This has scarred me. This is big time. This is going to be a part of my story forever. And then he goes, yet I dare to hope. I still dare to hope. I still believe that I can come out of this. I believe that there's more than this moment right now in my life. And he says, I still dare to hope because this is what I remember. He says, the faithful love of the Lord never ends. The faithful love of God never ends. His mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each morning. So yes, there are some things that have happened in my life that are awful and painful, and I'm different now because of them. But There is still a God in my life who is even more faithful than the problems in my life. And he is merciful, and he shows up always, and he makes every day new. Every day can be brand new with God. And that's exactly what Jeremiah recognizes, that every day there's a new start. Every day that you wake up, it's a brand new start to write a brand new story. You can't change what happened yesterday. It's done. It's over. But what you can determine is what you're going to do today, what you're going to do in this moment. And listen, there are a lot of people that you go to school with that keep hitting the same sad song over and over again on repeat because when they wake up every morning, they can't get over yesterday. So they repeat it. And then they repeat it. And they repeat it. And it becomes the pattern that their life flows. And it becomes ultimately who they are. But what Jeremiah is saying and what the rest of the scriptures will back up is that with God, every day gets to be brand new. With God, every day there gets to be a brand new start, a fresh dose of hope, love, and promise that comes from God. That his faithfulness doesn't change. Here's what you got to understand. You cannot escape pain. It's coming. It's coming. It's not if, it's when. It will happen to you. You are going to experience loss in your life. You are going to be disappointed in your life. You are going to be hurt in your life. You cannot avoid pain, but in the same breath, you cannot avoid God. And I'm telling you, God is more faithful than your problems. That just as your problems will keep showing up, God will keep showing up even more. You can't have one without the other. You cannot escape pain, but you cannot escape God. And that's what Jeremiah understands. And in this moment, his darkest moments, he's honest about the stuff that he's going through, but then he's honest about who God is. Both pain and God are inevitable. And you got to deal with both of them. We say that a lot on Floor One. We say you got to do something with Jesus. You got to do something with Jesus. And you got to do something with your pain. Because when your pain is new, so is God's love. But you got to be the one that makes the choice to press into that. Every morning you wake up, you get to decide what you're going to focus on. You're going to focus on what you went through, or are you going to focus on what God can do through you? But it's your choice. Nobody's making that decision for you. That's you. Now, listen, this doesn't mean that you should stop watching Netflix when you feel sad. All right, you should watch Netflix when you feel sad, yes. And it doesn't mean you should not eat a ridiculous amount of ice cream when you feel sad. That is also okay. I'm not saying these things in your life you should stop, but what I am saying is those things are not going to fix you. It doesn't matter how much Netflix you watch, it's not going to fix what someone said to you. It doesn't matter how much ice cream you binge on, it's not going to fix that hurt inside your heart. Those things are not going to fix you. Here's the reality that I think some of us need to figure out today. And for the rest of us, maybe it's something that we can hold on to and hopefully it comes back up when we need it. But that's this. If you want to get through the tough stuff in your life and not just around it, and you got to get that, right? Like you understand that, right? There is no getting around the tough stuff. You have to go through it. If you want to get through the tough stuff, not just around it, you have to feel your emotions. You have to feel your emotions. You have to let it in. And you have to let it out. And you have to know there's hope on the other side. There's hope on the other side of this thing. So let me just give you two things that you can do now, right now, to walk through this. Two things you can do right now to heal. First thing you can do is you can lament. You can name your difficulties out loud. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. You can talk to somebody about what's going on in your life. That's why we do small groups here. So you have other people to share life with, other students, adult leaders that you can say, hey, I'm going through something right now. One of the reasons why we invited parents into this space is because the people in your life who are going to fight for you more than anybody else on this earth that's going to fight for you is your parents. It's your parents. Despite the struggles you have with them, despite the differences, there's nobody that loves you more and will fight for you more than them. And this is the truth, because I've got 4 of them. You know, I talk about them way too much. But, you know, Amelia just turned 16 a couple weeks ago. And so 16 years ago, I got to be real with you, when I held Amelia in my arms for the first time, that was when I knew I could kill a man, right there. I just knew it. I didn't think I could do it. But then I held her in my arms. I was like, I'll kill a man right now. Tell you right now, someone wants to hurt my daughter, I will do time in the state of West Virginia if I need to. You know, and I don't, you know, we talk about all the funny things all the time. I'm always talking about my shortcomings as a parent with you guys, because, you know, we as parents, we're not perfect. We make a lot of mistakes. I've apologized to my kids more than I've apologized to anybody else in my entire life. And despite how crazy my kids drive me, I would do anything for my kids. Nobody loves you more than your parents love you. Nobody's going to fight for you more than they're going to fight for you. You should talk to your parents about what's going on in your life. Let them know. And if those 2 things are hard right now, you should be writing stuff down. You should get it out of your head and out of your heart and write it out. Literally write out what's going on and what you're struggling with. There's a lot of statements that we say over and over again on repeat here, and one of them is, what you can't say out loud owns you. What you can't say out loud owns you. So step 1 is lament. Get that out. And if that means going in your room and screaming into a pillow, do it. You guys remember that story. We got Gwen the angry pillow. Yep. And I came home one day, and I was like, where's Gwen? 3 seconds later, upstairs in the bedroom. I was like, angry pillow. All right, it's working. Like, because that's what we told her. Hey, when you're angry, get it out. Like, listen, you got to figure it out, but you got to get it out of you. You got to deal with your emotions. Stop running from it. Stop escaping it. Stop bearing it. Stop lying to yourself, telling yourself that tomorrow it's going to be better, because it's not if you don't deal with it. And the second thing you can start doing right now is, don't just name your problems, but name your hope. Name your hope. Hope has a name, and his name is Jesus. Now, we say this every week, and I'm going to keep saying this every week until I feel like I don't need to say it anymore. I know we got a lot of different people in this room, a lot of different perspectives in this room. I'm never going to try to sell Jesus to you, because if I can talk you into Jesus, I can talk you out of Jesus. And I think the things that we're talking about today could help you, even if you're not sure about who Jesus is. But I'm going to be straight. The answer is Jesus. And you got to name your hope. That's why reading scripture is so important. You shouldn't just read it to read it. You shouldn't just read anything just to read anything. You should read with purpose. And the reason why we read scripture is the reason why we're saying, get on the Bible app every day, check those things. You need truth in your life. You need truth right here and right here, so that when you have those days and the world is smacking you in the face and people around you are speaking lies into your life, you've got this truth inside of you that you can cling to hope. Because there's going to be days that people are just turds. They're the worst. And honestly, a lot of that is not you, it's them. It's people who are coming from situations where hurt people, and somebody attacks you. That's not about you, that's about them. But it still hurts, and it's still awful, and it's still real, and it still makes you feel insecure. So call that out for what it is, but in the same breath, know that you're fearfully and wonderfully made by God. That he says you're his masterpiece, that he gave his life to save you. So name your hope. Press into the truth of who you are, because I really want you to hear this, and I feel like somebody needs to hear this tonight. A bad day, okay, a bad moment, a bad couple of weeks does not equal a bad life. You are more than your mistakes. You are more than your worst moment that lasted 15 seconds that you wish you could take back. You are more than all of that. That's not who you are. Name your problems, name your hope, and feel it. Because you have to feel to move. And if you're struggling with something tonight, I'm telling you, if you want to move forward with it, you got to feel it. You got to let that in. You got to talk about it. You got to talk to God about it. And you got to press into hope. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you start new. You start new. Whoever you want to be tomorrow, just be it. Be that person. So we still have some spots left for summer camp. If you haven't signed up for summer camp, what is holding you back? You need to come talk to me. We want you there. I promise you it's going to be the best week of your summer, and it might just be the best week of your life.